Hello all, and today I'll be going over the history of the USS Arkansas Monitor. The Arkansas was authorized on May 4th, 1898 with the passage of the Naval Appropriations Bill of the same year, and this was in response to the Spanish-American War, which had just broken out, and the call for new vessels for coastal defense. And the Arkansas would be one of four monitors constructed, and they would be known as the Arkansas class monitors. And in October, bidding began for the ships, and Newport News Shipbuilding won the contract, and with a budget of $860,000, which was was appropriated by the act. And later, some changes in the design were discussed, such as dropping the 12-inch gun and replacing it with two 10-inch guns, or two turrets, each with two 10-inch guns. But it was decided the 12-inch would stay, and other choices or other decision changes were made, such as an increase in displacement and a lengthening of the bow or the ship in general. And but the heel or keel wouldn't be laid until roughly a year after these changes were made, and roughly 2 years after that, the ship would be commissioned in October of 1902. And its first major act would be to partake in the 100th anniversary of the Louisiana Purchase at St. Louis, which would involve it going up the Mississippi River. Now, not exactly the best river to navigate for a warship, much as any other ship of the time, but it was able to get up there roughly without any real major difficulties. But on the way back, however, it ran into some trouble with the lowering of the river, because even the shallow draft of the Arkansas was still, which was about 12 and a half feet, was still hard to pass. So they had to anchor off in this deep area, which was still off the coast of Missouri. And eventually, however, the river would rise again and they were able to return. But that was basically the first major act that the Arkansas would partake in. Following her return from St. Louis, she would mainly spend the next decade being regulated to a training vessel, first by the Naval Academy, then by the late Naval Militia. But she would sometimes partake in the exercises by the Atlantic Fleet, such as in the early years of commissioning, she would travel south to areas like Guantanamo Bay, train with them. But eventually, it was decided in 1913 that she would be used as a submarine tender. Now, because she had a low freeboard, it was thought it'd be a perfect kind of use for the ship, because using it being a training vessel, it wasn't really the best the Navy could have done. But even in this regard, as a tender, it was not as good as I would hope it would have been. But regardless, it was kept in this role for the time being. Aside from 1914, when it was decided that Arkansas would be sent to Mexico regarding the Mexican Revolution, which was ongoing, and to protect Allied American shipping and property in the area, it was sent down there and would eventually return back to its tending duties. And when World War I broke out, it was already stationed in Florida during this time. It was sent to Mexico to protect Allied shipping. And in this role, nothing really too exciting happened with the ship. No, it didn't fire on any vessels or anything like that. And eventually, by war's end, the Navy decided, the monitors, we don't need them anymore. It's post-World War I. They're bigger, better vessels that we need to worry our time with, and monitors are kind of a thing of the past. And so it was decided that the Arkansas and her sister ships would be decommissioned and scrapped, which Arkansas was finally scrapped in 1902 or 1922, sorry. And yeah, that brought an end to the Arkansas. It had a interesting history, but not really a one that is going to leave a mark on naval history, definitely, as by the time it was made, it was clearly outdated, and the Navy just kind of spent its years figure out what to do with the ships, and as far as public opinion of the ship goes, it did receive a lot of kind of praise when it would go to these areas, such most importantly during the St. Louis expedition, and citizens from the various uh, cities it went on would board the ship, and uh, being is probably the earliest they could ever board a warship if you lived along the Mississippi River. So it kind of a lot of fondness whenever it would visit these areas, such as and like in Florida, people would see it, and during the various celebrations Arkansas would partake in occasionally, they would see it. But there was it was much clear that the ship was not really necessary expense anymore, and so that for that reason it was decided to be scrapped. Now, regarding the name, it was announced that it would be named Arkansas shortly after it was authorized, and the Arkansas papers' view on it was sort of mixed. The Arkansas Gazette viewed it as humiliating that Arkansas is going to be bear the name of, or some monitor is going to bear the name of Arkansas that's puny, and many people thought it was a waste of money anyway. The Gazette viewed it as, well, it's the best we can probably do, which Arkansas had spent the last decade or so trying to improve its image, so that was probably true. And but and throughout its lifespan, the Arkansas Gazette, if you read the newspapers, would take shots at the modern Arkansas, poking fun at it throughout the years, until eventually 1909, the Gazette would get what it wanted when it was announced that a new battleship, dreadnought battleship, would be named Arkansas, and so that meant that the Monitor had to be renamed. And the naming was, they considered names like Little Rock or to be, I don't really know why, but they considered it a kind of inappropriate name for a monitor. So they instead went with Ozark, which is a town in northwest Arkansas. And the response to this was positive. Of course, the town of Arkansas was very happy about it, and even wanted the ship to go up the Arkansas River to view the town, but that, of course, never happened and never would happen. But yeah, that was its naming. It was the first true warship to be named Arkansas, and yeah, that sadly the first warship to be named Arkansas wasn't the most exciting vessel, but definitely interesting history. And in parallels to the dreadnought Arkansas, uh, that ship would also suffer the same fate of being roughly, it was in date a lot more than the modern Arkansas was, but within a decade, that the Arkansas dreadnought was made outdated and would spend the rest of its career kind of trying to justify its existence by the Navy, but it would eventually be blown up in Arkansas and Operation Crossroads. But yeah, that's the how the ship was named. So if yeah, that's good old Arkansas got stuck with the monitor that was eh, it was pretty cool though, I guess. I'm happy about it. It looks cool. So yeah, that's regarding its name. That's the service history of the USS Arkansas. A very, very brief overview of the ship. It'd probably be a lot more interesting if I went more thoroughly into it, but that would probably take hours to do so. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, and thanks for watching.